Wholeness. Welcome. This is Josh of innerskill.com. And today I have Daniel Packard with me. Daniel, how goes it?
Well, thank you for asking. And thanks for asking in a cool, hip way of how goes it instead of the traditional patriarchal, how are you doing? How goes it? I'm in a nice flow. Um, I moved to a new town in Mexico where there's a lot of people to connect with. So I was at a party and kind of partly people watching. And yeah, I turned it into sort of a human zoo, looking at different people. But then also saying, wow, I am so glad I know who to stay away from. And I found one person where my heart felt safe. So I went and talked to them and had a wonderful conversation. And then came home and I woke up with my favorite feeling, which is the feeling I'm trying to bring people to, which is that you wake up every morning and you just feel safe. Not because you've meditated, not because you did a mantra, not because you did an affirmation. You're just your default is you wake up and your baseline is safe. And to me, every time, which is how I do, and every time I wake up feeling safe and content, I just say, I'm the richest person in the world because I think it's what we all want deep down. And because what we teach is permanent, you don't lose it and then get it back. You don't, get all upset and then center yourself. The way we develop things is it's your default. And the beauty of that is just very efficient. That if your default is safe and content, I have that, how many hours am I awake? What, like 15 hours? So, 15 hours a day, I'm safe and content. That's a lot of hours. The other model that I used to do when I was unhealthy was to chase, joy or happy. And even when things lined up and I was successful and people liked me and all that stuff, even when it works for like 15-minute bursts at best, and then it's gone. So it's only 15 minutes. But then also it takes a lot of work to like be successful and get people to like you. And it's exhausting. So you're putting out all this energy. You're getting five minutes of the bursts here and, I'll take it. But completely sustainable 15 hours of safety and contentment with not much work, it's just a better ROI. You know what I'm saying?
It really is. And, peace is the highest happiness. And when we're content, we don't need a lot of stuff. We don't need to get rid of stuff because if we're easily contented and satisfied, it is truly a great wealth. So before we get into more of this, and you mentioned fear here, and this is a huge topic, especially as we saw during lockdowns and things like that. I want to do a deep dive into that with you if you'd like. Before we get doing that, I have this standard question I usually ask for an intro. Who is Daniel Packard and what kind of work does he do? You've alluded at some of the work you do here, but go ahead.
Well, thank you. What we do that I always like to differentiate what we do because it's much more effective and valuable and innovative. And I think it's what people want. It's just not available on the market. And because it's innovative, it's not really on people's radars to be looking for it. And your audience listens to lots of podcasts, probably about personal development and spirituality, trying to be happier. However, what you'll start to notice is most of the information, a lot of it, while valuable and helpful, usually is stuff you've heard before, maybe a different perspective, maybe from a different it's a lot of the same stuff, which is okay. But usually what's available out there is tips and tools and insights to give you awareness to usually manage what we're struggling with. Usually it's management. And management's fine because without management, we're going crazy pants magoo, to use the fancy Latin phrase. So, but we're managing it all the time, and that's okay. What we developed, and I'll tell you how, is a way such that we help people specifically with what we call the Funky Five, which is not a funk band from the 70s, although it may be. It's anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, and low confidence. And low confidence doesn't necessarily mean shy. It can mean caring what people think of you, needing people to like you, needing approval, anything where you're not fully comfortable being 100% authentic. And, most of your audience struggles with one or multiples of the funky five. And they've tried and they've gone looking for help. And usually what they're going to find is tips and tools, whether it's psychology, therapy, spirituality, personal development, coaching. It's usually tips and tools to manage it. That's the trend. That's what the industry sells. What we spent 8 years working on was an understanding of this. It's simple and mechanical and allows you to go from managing it to just being free of these things in 6 weeks. So if you've heard a lot of things that help give you awareness or tips and tools to manage, and you're like, wouldn't it be nice to just be free of this? That's what we do, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with your audience, how that's even possible. Because when people hear that, they say, you can't be free of this stuff. I've had it my whole life. You really can't be free of it in 6 weeks. So I'll be explaining to you the breakthroughs that we made in our research that were quite simple and really sitting right under everybody's nose. But the experts missed it because sometimes experts are so busy being experts, they're not innovating. So that's what I'll be sharing. So yeah, if you have tips and tools, and even meditation in some ways is the healthiest of the tools, it's still usually management, meaning you have to keep doing it, which is not bad. But what if you didn't have to meditate so much? Or what if often meditators will meditate in the morning to create a sense of calm and centeredness. And then usually what they'll say is, well, then it starts to fade throughout the day. Life starts showing up and the little creepy crawlies start showing up, and they'll say it lasts about 3-4 hours. So what if 15 minutes of meditation instead of 3 or 4 hours could last 3 or 4 days? Or what if instead of having to meditate for an hour a day, you only had to meditate 5 minutes a day? If that intrigues you, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Well, I think did you want to talk about fear? Also, I think one of the core questions here to ask would be, what do we want out of life? What's the at the end of the day, is there some kind of end goal or something? I think having this bigger picture, or do we just want to go along with society's programs, which is nothing per se wrong with that for the people who choose that, I see. But I think maybe it sounds like we just want a general sense of well-being, and it sounds like maybe you want to the thing you've developed helps optimize that and does that with good efficiency. So I guess we can maybe, if you'd like to define some parameters of I guess what you're trying to achieve, what you're helping other people achieve. Yeah, the
Sure.
aim and purpose of you did mention those 5 things. Yeah, how do you want to kind of
Well, I think it's
approach?
important, even if people hear and I say, hey, we're helping people be free of these things, usually people are going to be skeptical. I've been working on this for years. It's not gone. And how can it be simple? And how can you, everything, different things work for different people. How can you be so confident? And if I don't explain where this technology came from and where it was built, yeah, be skeptical. And also the key that we do that's special and rare is our focus on results and permanent results, and that we measure results. And the reason that matters to us is, growing up, my dad was a scientist. He was a physicist. And he said to me one day, anybody can have a theory or an idea. That's great. He said, but it doesn't mean that theory or idea will lead to actual results. He says, results matter. And it's the person that actually gets the results that probably actually knows what they're talking about more than other people. And results matter. And also, he was sort of an inventor, and he gave me access to his workshop, and I became a little, kid inventor. I would make things from my bikes, and I would invent. And when you invent and make things, you make things that work. You start with an idea, but then you have to build a prototype and test until something works. Results matter. And when we're struggling and we're unhappy awareness is nice, tools are nice, insights are nice, but at the end of the day, people want results, whatever that is, to be more authentic, to be happier. They want the result. They don't want to read all the books and go to all the retreats. They will, but we want the result. So I went to engineering school to learn how to problem solve and invent and innovate and create things that work. And it's a certain mindset to solve things, which is you solve. There's learning and understanding, and then there's, I want the solution. And engineers and scientists, that's how we're made. We're built. Go after a solution. And what you do is you come up with a theory, then you build a prototype, and then you test it, and you get results. And then you refine and calibrate and redesign. It can take a month. It can take years. With the Wright brothers, they built the plane that finally flew was built 4 years earlier, but it didn't fly, didn't get good results. So they tweaked it. They tweaked the wings, they tweaked the engine, they tweaked the seating positions, calibrating, retesting until one day they got a plane that works. That's a certain approach to life, and it's a certain attitude of just stick with it until you get the result. Now, the good news was, I was trained how to make machines work, but they didn't teach me how to make life work. And so I could invent things. I was a talented inventor and designer, but I was anxious. I was insecure. I was a people pleaser, procrastinating, perfectionist, didn't like who I saw in the mirror, needed people to like me, became very successful and was unfulfilled and not happy. Didn't like who he saw in the mirror. Just a typical story. And then, like your audience, I went looking for help. I don't want to live like this, so I go to the experts. I go to the therapists, the psychologists, the spiritual teachers, the coaches. I did the retreats. I did EFT, EMDR, CGT, CBT, EFT, MOUSC. I did all the letters. I did all the retreats. I read all the books. I watched all the Oprah episodes. I lived with gurus. I was probably in a cult. I spent 10 years and $100,000. And at the end, I had this awareness of this shit's not gone. I'm still anxious. I'm still caring what people think of me. I'm still insecure. I'm still not being fully me. Is it better? Sure. Do I have some awareness around it? Yeah, it was better, but it wasn't gone. And just the engineer in me said, this just isn't very good results. 10 years, $100,000, still doing it. If you took your car to a mechanic and 10 years later, your car still has that wonky noise, and you turn to your mechanic and they're like, well, we're always peeling back layers of the onion over your car. And it's a never-ending journey of exploration. You'd be like, no, you didn't know how to fix the car. Just admit it. So I saw that I call it the improvement industrial complex. It's $1 trillion industry globally. Spirituality, personal development, psychology, trillion with a T, Josh. That's a lot of money. And my experience of my friends, and experience of now our clients is nothing is really solving anything quickly, permanently. There's very little measurement. And so anyway, I was just in pain. And I felt kind of trapped and broken and hopeless. And I kind of looked up to God, and I was pissed. I was like, what do you want from me? I've just spent the last 10 years trying to be the best version of me that you want me to be, but I'm still stuck in these patterns. I know it's a test, but I'm trying to pass the test, and I'm still stuck. What do you want from me? I was just being rhetorically angry. I didn't expect an answer, but I got a real clear answer, which was what my dad told me as a kid. Results matter. And you're an engineer, and you know how to get results. And I went, I guess I'll try. And so I started my own research company, Full Liberation Technology, with the mission, or goal rather, to see, could we reverse engineer an understanding of why people struggle and build a system, keyword a system, such that was simple, reliable, measurable, consistent, and if you worked the steps in the right order, you got a result. And that result is that what you're struggling with, the anxiety, people-pleasing, perfectionism, procrastination, low confidence, whatever, overthinking, addiction, whatever it is, it's either significantly down or gone within 6 weeks. And we measure it because as you go through our programs, we're tracking you every day with our app. So you're logging data. So we're collecting data to see that you're improving. And when people work with us, you don't pay us at the beginning because we haven't helped you yet. We haven't gotten you a result. So why are we taking your money? We charge you at the end and only at the end once there's clear measurable data that what you're struggling with is gone and not coming back. And if we can't help you, we don't take your money. Now, we have a 90% success rate because we've been optimizing this program, but we just believe results matter. And that if we can't help you, we're not taking your money. And also because what we do is innovative, people are so skeptical. So we say, okay, be skeptical, have doubt, but you don't have to pay at the beginning. Try it, collect the data, have the experience. And so it helps us help more people by allowing them to pay at the end because A, it lowers the risk to try something innovative. B, people intuitively know, wait a minute, you charge at the end? I've never, no therapist I ever went to, no guru, no teacher ever did that. They took my money up front. I was like, I know they take a lot of money up front. And they didn't give my money back when I didn't feel better. I was like, I know, I've been there, girlfriend. So people, it's hard to know who to trust in this industry. Not to lie, but like who's going to help you? And by saying, look, we only get paid when we help you, shows people quickly what we do is different and better, and allows us to help more people.
Well, that's a really cool model with the payment, of course. Yeah, I mean, it puts the money where the mouth is, right? Um, I couldn't help but thinking here while we were talking of narrative. The narratives we have and the control of the narrative seems really important. We look at media and they're controlling the narrative. We have various levels of self-talk that we have. There's stories that we believe in. People believe in stories and they align their lives about them. People, they want a good story a lot of times, right? So this is an important thing for people, I think, to see and realize. And it also kind of ties in with your evidence-based or results-based approach here. So, what can you say about if there's anything at all to say about narrative, and then if you want to dive into a little bit of what you can say about the research you did, more specifics about your programs and things like that, and tell people how you came across what you came across and how you're doing, and more in details of what you do. Then.
Sure. Well, one narrative that people have that I have a real problem with is because so many people go looking for help and usually are met with tips and tools that give you awareness, but it's never gone. When you go to experts and you try what they tell you to do and it's not gone, or they say burn the ego or believe in yourself or unlock your power, and then you try and fail. Certainly what I did is I would unconsciously say, well, there you go, I'm broken. I mean, this guru told me to burn the ego. I tried to burn the ego. My ego is still here. I guess I'm broken. Or there's something wrong with me, or it's my fault. And a lot of people unconsciously, from trying all this stuff that doesn't solve anything, leaves them feeling a little more broken, a little bit more hopeless. Because when the experts say this will work and then you try and fail, you internalize it. And I want to let people know that basically, again, the improvement industrial complex, they're not trained to solve and innovate. I call them learner shares. They learn things either from another teacher, another school, from their experience. They learn something and they share it. Great. There's value in that. Most self-help books, someone learns something and they share it. And there's value in that. But learning and sharing is not innovating. You're just learning and sharing. Now, if what you're learning and sharing is solving things, great, but it's almost not doing it. Learners, sharers aren't focused engineering problem solvers. The focused engineering problem solvers, they're busy solving problems. Edison had like 1,000 patents, 0 books, because he's just getting shit done. He's not writing books about no. I'm just here to figure things out. And so that's the innovators and the engineers. They're not learning and sharing. So you've got the learner sharers that are focused on the inner world, the spiritual teachers, the psychologists, they're focused on the inner world, but they're not innovating and getting better results. The innovators and the engineers that know how to get great results, they're focused on the physical world. That's where you're getting all this technological and medical innovation. But they're focused on the outside world. So the reason we were able to crack this faster than anybody is if you take a Venn diagram of your innovative engineering problem solvers, that's one circle, and then you have your internally focused learner sharers, it's usually two different circles. But if you take those two circles and you line them up, there's a little sliver of overlap where yours truly sits, where I was just one engineering, innovating problem solver that decided to go to the inner world. And when we went to the inner world, we were able to innovate and get better results. That's why this is possible. Why am I telling? What does this have to do with story? What everyone else has been learning from are learner sharers, but what they're learning and sharing isn't solving anything quickly. And then your audience will tell themselves, oh, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. This is my childhood. I can't get rid of this. Maybe I should just settle. Maybe I'll have this forever. I certainly had that. And I want to let you know, if you've had something for a very long time, anxiety, low confidence, people pleasing, whatever it is, that thing you're struggling with, you've had it a long time. And you've tried to get rid of it, and you haven't gotten rid of it. The reason you haven't gotten rid of it is because the people you trusted to help you weren't incentivized or trained to get rid of it. They were incentivized to share some things and give you awareness. So you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not trapped, and this isn't your fault. It's the people you went to didn't know how to get the job done. But it's completely solvable if you go to people that are good at solutions. And the way we got here was we had the benefit of not being experts, because experts regurgitate legacy thinking, which is just what they do. But part of what inspired me to start my company was the story of Florence Nightingale, who was this nurse in the 1850s, and she saw all these soldiers were dying in recovery. More soldiers were dying in recovery than on the battlefield. And she goes to the experts, the generals and the doctors, saying, hey, this is a problem. And they just blew her off, saying, this is war. Like, don't worry about it. That's regurgitating the old paradigm. But she cared. She's like, I'm not good. She starts paying attention. And because she wasn't an expert, she was just a nurse looking around. She's the one that discovered that the infection was because of poor hygiene. And once you change the bandages, open up the windows, and move the soldiers away from toilets, surprise, surprise, the death rate dropped by 99%. Something very simple, sitting right under everybody's nose. But because she wasn't an expert, she had the care and the tenacity to go after a solution. But when she figured it out, it still took 30 years for it to catch on, because it takes a while for people to catch up. So what we did, we were like Florence Nightingale. We said, we're not going to take this legacy thinking, the spirituality. It's well-intentioned. It's great for awareness. It doesn't solve anything quickly. So let's start from scratch. And let's start from scratch with a focus on a solution. And a solution means you're free of it. So the first thing we did is we were like, we need to simplify this. There are so many confusing theories about why we struggle. You don't believe in yourself, childhood trauma, mindset, society, blocked chakra, not enough goji berries. There's just like all these theories and all these books that come out each year, neurotransmitters, neuroplasticity. I'm not saying there's not truth to it. I'm just saying when I went looking for help, it was really confusing and I wasn't clear what the heck was going on. Can you relate to that a bit, Josh?
Yes, and I just interject real here quick that I found so far, it's clinging. Clinging is a problem. Clinging. But please continue. Yes.
So we just looked and we said, as an engineer, if you really know what you're talking about, there's not tons of theories. Newton came up with Newton's basic laws. Those 3 laws covers almost everything you see on the planet that moves. It hasn't changed. No one's come up and said, oh, no, there's another theory of why you shouldn't stand in front of a bus. No, there's not another theory. There's one theory, which is that objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and the thing with more mass is going to knock over the thing with less mass. All that was mapped out a long time ago. Those basic principles and Newton's equation on gravity put a man on the moon. So when you really know stuff, there's not 30 theories. When you break your bone and you go to the doctor doesn't give you 30 options. There's one option. You put a cast on, it holds the bone still, a mechanism fuses the bone from 2 pieces to 1 piece, and in 8 weeks you're up and running. There's not 30 theories when you know what you're talking about. So we just said, I think a lot of these theories might be part of it, but maybe people don't know what's going on, because if they did, there wouldn't be so many different theories. So we said, let's simplify it, because if you can simplify things, you know what you're doing. Einstein, one of his great gifts was he simplified things. Newton simplified things. So we said, let's simplify things. A, it'll just be helpful. B, it means we're on the right track. And the first big sort of simplification we saw was that no matter what you're struggling with, it feels and you're told that you have multiple problems. But you don't have multiple problems. You have multiple symptoms of one thing, which is fear. You can call it anxiety, but really it's just a lot of fear. And when the fear gets to a high enough level, you call that fear anxiety. You can say you're a people pleaser. Okay, or you could say you're afraid people won't like you, so you want to make sure everyone's pleased with you. You could say you're a procrastinator, or you could say you're afraid to start or finish things. You could say you're a perfectionist, or you could say you're afraid to make a mistake. You could say you have low confidence, or you could say you're afraid to be your authentic self. You could say you're a clinger, or you could say the idea of letting go is scary, so you cling. So if you look at all these different names in books and say, these are just different versions of fear. Can you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, as far as I know, there's, when you boil everything down, as far as emotional wise, it's either love or fear, I mean,
Yeah,
to oversimplify, but that's been my observation, my experience as well. Yeah.
it is. And it's simple. And you go, oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's not what's taught. You don't take retreats on fear. You take retreats on how to unlock your infinite power. Well, because that just sounds cooler than let's go after the fear. But also, when we saw it was fear, we looked around and said, is anybody solving fear? Is anybody? And we didn't see anybody solving it. We saw overcome the fear, face the fear, change your mindset in the fear. Don't let the fear stop you. But that's not getting rid of the fear. I tried. I spent $3,000 on a workshop where I was taught how to overcome fear. Okay, so the fear would come up. I would white knuckle it, change my mindset, work really hard, and overcome the fear, and move a little bit forward. Okay, it's not nothing, but one, it's a lot of energy. Two, was the fear gone, Josh, or was the fear still there?
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't obliterate fear.
No, because that's not, when you overcome fear, you don't get rid of fear. If you overcome a mountain, the mountain's still there. So people say overcoming fear, and we think, ooh, that sounds great. It is short term, but not long term, because it's still there. And we just said, if we could just get rid of the fear permanently, all the symptoms would go with it. So that's what we did. We said, let's see if we can solve fear quickly. And that's what we did. And the reason we were able to do that is, again, we were just focused on a solution. And the first thing we noticed right away is that what's being taught about fear is inaccurate. Many things about it. First of all, we're told usually that fear is a problem of the mind. You'll hear people say things such as change your mindset, stop the scarcity thinking, stop telling yourself thoughts and your story. There are pills to target the neurotransmitters in your mind. It's also called mental health. It's got the word mental right in there. Be more mindful. Now, the mind is part of it. The mind says some scary, nasty things, and then if you feel scared, you think, oh, the mind is, and the mind is part of it, and a quiet mind is a great thing. The question is the mind the root cause of fear? If it is, great. But we looked at the results. Anxiety's on the rise. Fear is on the rise. Depression's on the rise. Addiction's on the rise. Suicide's on the rise. Happiness is in decline. So it's coming from the mind theory, could be true, but look at the results. It's not getting good results. So we said, is this a problem of the mind? And when we asked that question, which again is challenging the old paradigm, but we weren't attached to the old paradigm. We're just looking for a solution. We saw that fear is not coming from the mind. Fear. Go ahead.
No, yeah, that was good to ask. Well, what is the root of fear?
Well, everything we figured out was dead simple. It's just we took the time to figure it out. I'll ask you. I'll tell you the answer, but it's really simple. You probably already know it. If I said it's not coming from the mind, it's the root cause is not the mind. What other location might fear originate in?
Well, that's right. Then it's just physicality, So that's
It's the body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
Right.
But also, it's pretty obvious. If you, again, let's say you never went to a therapist or psychologist, you never read a self-help book, and you just started this from scratch, just with common sense. No, would you say I think fear or I feel fear? Do you say I think anxious or I feel anxious?
Yeah, of course. It's a visceral response.
Well, you say, of course, but it's called mental health. So it's like, yes, of course, when you look at it, it's like, oh, yeah, it's in my body. But they're called mental health experts. One problem, it's not coming from the mind, so you're not an expert. You're in the wrong place. It originates in the body. When we feel fear, your throat, chest, heart, stomach, that's the body. Now, we are mechanically wired to stay alive. The body tells you what you need to stay alive, and then the mind is a tool to get the body what it needs to stay alive. So you feel hunger in the body first, then the mind senses the hunger, then the mind is a little computer, a tool to go get you food. If you're in the jungle and you hear a sound in the bushes, you will feel fear in the body first. Your mind senses the fear and goes, uh-oh, there's a threat. The mind, will try and find the threat and get us away from the threat. But it doesn't originate in the mind. It starts in the body and spreads to the mind. So for reasons which I'll explain, there are things your audience is doing totally unknowingly that has their body feeling fear. The mind senses that fear, thinks there's a problem, and goes, oh, God, there's a problem. Okay, well, what if you run out of money? What if it's you? What if you suck? What if you're not good enough? What if there's something wrong with you? Or you know what? You probably shouldn't go do that thing. Maybe you should. So your mind will start spinning, trying to solve the fear or try to talk you out of going near the fear, the sabotage, the critical. You don't have a negative mindset. You feel fear in the body, and the mind is trying to talk you away from the fear. But it starts in the body and it spreads to the mind. Then once the mind starts doing its job, it keeps you stuck in a loop. We call it the spin cycle. So the mind is part of it, but if we're trying to be strategic and go to the root cause, the mind is not the root cause. The body is. The mind is a symptom. And I'm telling your audience this because they spent decades and a lot of money being told it was a mind issue. So you were never going to solve it. You're not broken. You don't have a weak mindset. You don't have a monkey mind. Your body is afraid and it's spread to the mind. And this is not theory, Josh. When we were building early prototypes of our system, they were just body focused. And I remember this is about 8 years ago. I woke up and after struggling with anxiety and insecurity, self-doubt, all that crippling, I woke up one morning feeling calm. And I thought, well, this has to be temporary. There's no way it's permanent. 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go, 2 months go, and I'm just chill as a cucumber. I've been calm in my body for about 10 years straight. But the other thing that happened is my mind just went quiet. I used to have to meditate 30 minutes, an hour a day to get my mind. Now I just wake up. It's just quiet in there. It's like a little meadow with little butterflies. And when my mind does talk, it says nice things. My mind used to tell me I was unlovably ugly. You know how effed up that is? There's unlovable. That's pretty mean. There's ugly. That's pretty mean. My mind told me I was unlovably ugly. Now it's either quiet or it says nice things. I woke up this morning, looked in the mirror, and I was like, I do me. It says nice things now. Not because I do affirmations or visual. It's just when your body is calm, your mind is calm. And so I'm telling your audience this. Your mind is not, you don't have a weak mind. It's not your ego. that the experts, while well-intentioned, sent you literally to the wrong place. That's what they learned. It's the wrong location. And so you're never going to solve it at the symptom level. You have to go to the root cause, which is the body, which is what we did. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'm glad you found that that loving kindness for yourself too. It's I mean, yeah, it's fundamental for sure. Now and it's been my experience too. When it comes to fear, yeah, it is something the body senses, right? The nervous system in the body, and like you say, then the mind comes on board. I think what a lot of people don't see is that due to certain habit patterns that build up, then the mind will sometimes mistaken certain events in life, right? And then it will automatically jump to a conclusion, kind of, oh, this has happened in the past before. Now I need to be afraid because of this thing in the past happened. And a lot of times that can be totally unconscious. And so the mind can actually elicit bodily responses of fear too. It can go the other way around. But like you're saying, when we first have this, the body will pick up on something first, and then the perceptual apparatus will come in and identify or label, put a label on it of whatever the body is experiencing, right, in order to identify it. Sometimes it can be very helpful to have these labels of perception of what it is, but other times it can be detrimental doing the things. But yeah, the body keeps the score is a classic one that shows this, and we can experience this in our own in our own experience too. We can test this. A lot of times, it's a subtle thing though, and people are so disconnected from their bodies, including myself, a lot of times that they can't really see and know this for themselves right away. And so perhaps systems like you're teaching can address that as well. I love this saying too. Just kind of thought experiment of like, what's here now if there's nothing to fix or solve, so it brings it back to kind of square one or ground zero, and presuming that there's something wrong, right? Presuming that we have something wrong with us to begin with. And some people I've asked this question to, like they can't even, it doesn't compute, right? They're just start from something's wrong, I'm messed up, and they can't even fathom, just as an experiment, to set that aside for just 1 second and say, what if there's nothing wrong? There's nothing wrong with me. Then what is there? What is there then?
Well, it's a good question. And it's one of the advantages of once you go from the mind to the body. For some reason, which I'm not sure of, when we approach things at the mind level, whether it's psychological or spiritual, we approach those things as though there's something wrong with me. I would follow this guru that said, the ego is the problem. We must burn the ego. Has a lot of shame and guilt around it. Oh God, I've got the ego. The ego's got me. I must burn the ego. Or people who even, gentle words like, I have this scarcity mindset. I always go negative. And people like are whipping themselves out. So for some reason, now I understand when you're not acting in a healthy, balanced way, something's off. But for some reason, the legacy thinking is when it's psychological, spiritual, is there's something wrong with me. When you go to the body, that shame and guilt doesn't follow. I was hiking one time and I saw this hiker and he's on the side of the trail and he has a blister. And I didn't know he had a blister. I just saw him. I said, do you need any help? And he said, no, I have a blister. I said, oh, okay. You okay? He said, yeah, I didn't wear my right socks and I have a blister. Now he has a blister. Something's not working. But somebody with a blister doesn't say, oh my God, I have like ankle pain disorder because my father used to this. And it's just a mechanical issue. If you have a sprained ankle, no one says, I try to walk and I feel pain in my ankle and I feel this is like the universe. No, it's just your body has mechanics, and the mechanics are, there's no shame. There's no guilt. When I blew out my knee trying to impress a girl with a dance move, and I had a knee issue, that the doctor did an MRI. He's like, your ACL is torn. I didn't go, oh my God, I'm you don't go there. So for some reason, when people think it's in the mind, it has shame and guilt and brokenness. But we have compassion. If you don't brush and floss and you need a root canal, you don't tell your friends, "Oh my God, it's a really hard time for me and my teeth, and I just feel like this is my child." No, you just need a root canal. There's an infection. You go to the dentist. So the beauty of the body is you're not broken. There are things that malfunction, not because you're broken. Why? Because something is not at full health. That's very different. Something at not optimal health is neutral and doesn't have shame and guilt. That's very different than I am broken. So what we saw was, again, we're just trying to solve this. We're like, the cool thing about the body is it's a system. It's mechanical. Most of the things in the body are mechanical. You got arteries, you got ligaments, you got teeth. A lot of the body is pretty mechanical and well mapped out, which engineers love. There's systems. So we just said, where's the system in the body that creates fear? And let's figure out why it's probably not healthy and bring it back to health.
Well,
Makes
I gotta
sense.
ask you, where is that place in the body?
Everything we figured out is dead simple. It's just the experts were so busy teaching legacy thinking they missed it. It's so simple, it's obvious. Let's take out the word fear, just swap in the word nervous. If you had to guess what system is making people extra nervous, do you think it's the endocrine system, the epidural system, or the nervous system? What do you think?
Well, of course, yes. The central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system. There's an autonomic nervous system, right? And then there's kind of the which one am I missing? But yeah, we just combine those into the nervous system, of course, which links directly with the
brain.
You
say,
right?
Of course. It is, of course.
Well,
but that's not taught.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And our nervous system is on overdrive right now. And yeah, one of the definitions I heard for ego was an overstimulated nervous system. And I want to echo what you said about the ego. The ego is not the enemy, right? The best approach I've heard about this is integrating the ego, right? We can't let it run the show, but we can't obliterate it either. You know, I just have to remember my name, my social security number, right? How to put on my pants. We have to have an ego to function, you know, and this, it gets us from point A to point B. So it's ridiculous to obliterate the ego. But yeah, this notion of fear. Now, what would you say to people that say, well, you know, fear is a huge, blocking mechanism, and it runs stress and is cause of a lot of health issues and things like this. But we still need that? Like, what happens if we need to, like, you know, a car coming? I can't just say, well, you know, I mean, this is kind of common sense, right? We're still going to have some kind of fear to either run away from really life-threatening issues or fight or whatever, or freeze, right? So we'll need some degree of that. And then on the other extreme of that, I'm sure there's this thing called psychopathy, where there's I guess psychopaths that they don't have fear, not because they're well balanced and have done work on themselves and found the optimal way. They're psychopaths, but I really doubt that we really even need to address that. I'm just laying out the extremes of this just to know kind of where the boundaries are, right?
Well, yeah, it's good as an exploratory curiosity. It's great. The problem is people are so effing confused. I always tell hosts,
sure,
let's stick to the basics and get people a simple understanding, because people are heavily confused. Once you know the simple solution, and then you want to go do a little jazz exploration of like, well, what about psychopaths? Great. But let's first figure out the simple low-lying fruit. And the fact is your nervous system is your body's mechanical threat response system. That's what it's there for. It's there to detect threats. When it detects a threat, you will feel unsafe. When you feel unsafe, you'll feel a feeling which we call fear. Then once you feel fear, that will give rise to anxiety, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism, low confidence, clinging, sabotage, overthinking, everything. When you feel unsafe from within, it's just going to create this. We just helped a gentleman who came through our program with anxiety and people-pleasing. And guess what went away during his 6 weeks? His Parkinson's.
Wow. Cool.
I've had clients come through. A gentleman a year ago had horrible low self-confidence, and some anxiety. He went through about week 5. Also, when he started the program, he said, I have OCD. Is this going to get in the way of the program? Now, I've seen enough people go through this that I think a lot of this stuff, OCD, ADHD, if you're nervous, if you feel unsafe from within, that is going to create so many problems because you're not designed to be sitting in terror. I didn't say anything to him because I didn't want to ruin his experience and I didn't know. But the engineer in me said, OCD, that's obsessive compulsive disorder. If you feel afraid inside, you're going to obsess over things as a coping mechanism to create a sense of control because you feel afraid from within. Now, I didn't say anything, but I was like, I wonder if the OCD goes away. So he goes through the program. Week 5, his anxiety was down about 82%. His confidence went up about 78%. And on week 6, I said, hey, Brad, how's your OCD? He said, funny you should mention it. Last week, it was gone. And I said, really? He said, what the heck happened? I said, what if you didn't have OCD? What if you were just felt unsafe inside and the OCD was a coping mechanism? He said, that makes a lot of sense. He said, I feel very safe and calm right now, so there's nothing to obsess about. So if a nervous system is healthy, you feel safe. When you feel safe, there's no fear. When there's no fear, these symptoms of fear aren't there. Now, the body is beautiful and wonderful and free. You, Josh, and your audience, we get 2 eyeballs. You know how much it would cost to do research and development to design and build 1 eyeball? It'd be in the trillions. We get 2 and they work together. What did you pay for your eyeballs, Josh?
I'm not aware that I paid anything for them.
Free. What about your tongue? Tongue's pretty cool. I'm using my tongue right now, flapping around, knows exactly what to do, how to shape the air, what to do. The tongue is incredible. How much did you pay for your tongue?
Same answer, Daniel.
Same answer. So God, universe, gives us a body, this incredible creation with an immune system and feelings and all these things that work really well together. But there's one condition. What's the one condition to getting this body?
You have to be born.
Well, okay, but there's another one, which is if you want the body to run well, what's the one thing you have to do?
Well, I would say take care of it. Yeah, you have to take care of our body.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
I'll give you this body for free, but there's some basic hygiene that all the systems need. You got to do the basic hygiene. You got to get 8 hours of sleep. You got to drink enough water. You got to eat the food pyramid. You got to brush and floss. Try not to fall off 2-story buildings. Do the basics. Body pretty much takes care of itself. Any organic system, a relationship, a goldfish, a dog, a business, a planet, if you do daily maintenance, it usually takes care of itself. But if you don't take care of something, every system will eventually start to show symptoms of disrepair when you don't take care of it. Agreed?
Yeah, it's this kind of, standard. Yes, absolutely. And not valued as much. People, don't value it for whatever reason. And that's, I think, falls into disrepair. They don't value themselves either. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you, too, what do you think is behind this massive amount of societal fear? Do you approach it on I know obviously we have to approach it on an individualistic level. That's kind of, especially working with clients and things like this. But a big picture, what is going on? Why is there so much rampant fear?
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, on a societal level.
If you take care of a system, if you are taught daily hygiene and maintenance of a system, it's healthy. Agreed?
Sure.
Okay, so you were taught to brush and floss. You were taught to get 8 hours of sleep. You were taught to drink enough water. You know basic maintenance of certain systems in the body, and they run pretty well. Did anybody, and I'm saying this to you and your audience, sit you down and say, hey, here's what you need to do every day. Basic daily hygiene of your feelings and nervous system every day. And if you do the basic daily hygiene, your nervous system will be healthy and you'll feel safe. Were you ever told how to do that?
Yeah, it's a brilliant answer. That it's lacking. It's totally lacking. And it opens up the bigger questions. Well, we don't have to get philosophical, but it still, I'll put them out there, not for an answer. It's just like, well, do people who has why weren't we taught these things? And yeah, why is it undervalued?
Well, we're not
it's
taught it
crazy.
because it has to first be learned.
Yeah.
Brushing and flossing is only about 100 years old. There was somebody that figured out that the sugar turns to acid that eats away your tooth. They had to figure that out. Then they figured out brushing and flossing. That's 100-year-old. They had to figure that out. Diet, relatively new, maybe 60, 70, 80 years old. People didn't know anything about diet. And then eventually you learn that these systems need, basic hygiene. So all these things need to be figured out. Just the nervous system was lagging. So the point is, we are not taught basic daily hygiene on our nervous system. If you don't take care of a system, the nervous system goes into a state of disrepair and you start to feel unsafe. Not because there's a threat, not because of social media, not because of your past, because right now you aren't taking care of a system, so it's misregulated and you feel unsafe, so it cranks out fear. You see all these symptoms of fear. So the root cause is if you don't take care of your nervous system, like any system, it will start to malfunction and be fragile. So that's what's causing it is we were never taught to take care of it. But here, I'll show it to you in real time so you can feel it, because this is theory. But here, we'll do an exercise so you can feel this. So what I'm saying is there's a link between care and fear. It's the lack of care, accumulation of lack of care that leads to fear. That's what's causing the fear. Not your childhood, not your past. Daily poor hygiene and care will lead to fear. But I want you to feel it. So we'll do a little role play here where we're friends. And I'm talking to you, Josh, and I'm talking to your audience. And I'm going to show you in real time there's a link between care and safety, which is a fear. Okay, let's say we're friends. But then all of a sudden, I start to treat you like crap. I'm unkind to you. I'm mean to you. I know what you need, and what you need doesn't really matter to me. I put everybody else way ahead of you, and you're dead last. I push you too hard. When you're struggling, I'm not empathetic. I judge you and criticize you. And when you really, really need me and call out for help, I'm nowhere to be found. I leave you hanging. If I give you poor care, over time, are you going to feel safe or unsafe?
I'd say we're probably become frenemies now, at least. Yeah, that would be. Yeah,
Safe or unsafe?
well, I would. Yeah, I wouldn't be around them, but yeah, if I was forced to be around them, then I would not feel comfortable for sure. Yeah,
Safe or unsafe?
Yeah, probably unsafe. Not,
Unsafe. You can call it uncomfortable. You can say I'd
well,
get
that's
away
right.
from
At the
them.
root of that, that's right. So,
But
yeah,
I'm
there's
showing
fear
you
there. There's fear
why is when I treat you poorly, it leads to
Sure.
feeling unsafe. And then, yes,
Sure.
you'd get away, you'd have a reaction, but
Sure.
you can feel it. If I treat you poorly for a long period of time, you will feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And it's not a theory. It's because if you treat somebody poorly, it breaks trust. If you break trust, you feel unsafe. You feel unsafe, you feel fear. See how it's all just like mechanical.
Yeah.
So if I'm treating you poorly and you feel unsafe around me, that's not a negative mindset. That's not scarcity thinking. That's not your ego. That's you going, I am not being cared for. I am not safe here. I'm out of here. So simple. Poor care, breaks trust, leads to unsafety, which creates fear. Simple, mechanical, universal. Now, is it fair to say that you're in a relationship with yourself?
I would hope so.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that sometimes, or maybe often, you are not a loving, caring friend to yourself?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think anybody's that perfect yet.
Right. Now, you know that. Your audience knows, yeah, I'm hard on myself. I beat myself up a lot. I'm overly critical. I put my other people way ahead. People know that they don't treat themselves well. They know that. Your audience knows they're afraid. What they don't know, and we saw, was it is that lack of daily care to yourself that accumulates over time such that you feel unsafe in your own body. That's where the fear is coming from. It's not your past. It's not Fox News. It's not social media. It's you to you 10 to 30 times a day. You were never taught, and you're accidentally breaking trust and leaving your nervous system misregulated, and you feel unsafe. That's what's causing the fear. Then the outside things can make it worse. But I feel safe from within now because I used our system, which has all the tools in one place and simple, easy to follow instructions that bring your nervous system back to health in 6 weeks. When you have a healthy nervous system, which I do and our clients do, you feel safe. When you feel safe from the inside out, you can experience stuff. You don't like it. You can maybe feel worry, but I don't feel fear anymore. I don't need people to like me. My mind doesn't spin because my foundational baseline. So the big breakthrough we saw was the fear is being created by the little acts of neglect that 10 to 30, there's 28 ways that we need to take care of ourselves. The average person knows of about 5. Here's one that people also do that they know they do, but they don't know is creating fear. So we know the one being critical to ourselves. That one's really popular. But here's another one that a lot of people do. Do you, Josh, or do you know somebody that deflects compliments?
Oh yeah, that's yeah, of course, yes.
Right. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm horrible with compliments. Oh yeah, I deflect compliments. People know they do it. Yeah. People know they're afraid. What people don't know is that when you deflect a compliment, that is leading to fear later on. And I'll prove it to you. Let's be friends again, okay? And let's say we're friends. And let's say, again, this will be an exaggerated version, but I'm going to show you what happens when I deflect a compliment. And I'm going to ask you if you feel safe or unsafe, okay? So let's say we're hanging out. Let's say you do something. Now let's say somebody pays you a compliment. And then I jump in and I say, no. You get that no, you do not give them love and appreciation. No. Get it away from them. No. You know what they get? They get whipped when they fuck up. So you take that love and appreciation away, and I'm going to stand here and wait for them to mess up and beat the crap out of them. If I treated you that way and I deflected a compliment, would you feel safe or unsafe around me?
Yeah, that's pretty obvious, right? Yeah, that wouldn't be too safe to be around.
Well, you're saying it's obvious, and it is. But was it obvious that all those times that you neglected compliments of you, that was leaving you feeling unsafe in your own body? Was that obvious?
Yeah, that's a good point, and I will put to the fact that before I changed my behavior too, I was giving fake compliments to other people. Like I would say, "Oh, nice haircut," when I wasn't being sincere, right? And I thought, it was actually a put down mask as a compliment. So there's that too as well. So there's but please, and then I would. Please finish your thought here, and then I would like to start wrapping this up and tell people, and then when we finish this line, tell people of how they can to check out your work and your systems and how they can get a hold of you and anything else you'd like to plug, and then and then leave us with the final message of what you would like to have listeners and viewers go out on.
Okay, well. What we saw, and this isn't theory, this is data. This is how we have a 90% success rate, regardless of who you are. This is how we're able to back up our results, and you only pay at the end because this is simple and mechanical and applies to everybody. The downside is everyone has a nervous system, and every system needs care. You were not taught to take care of the daily hygiene of your nervous system. So 10 to 30 times a day, totally unknowingly, you are not taking care of your nervous system, and you feel unsafe in your own body, which creates fear and all these symptoms, from sabotage to anxiety to overthink. Those are all symptoms. And if you don't learn how to take daily care of your nervous system, you will continue to neglect it. You will continue to feel unsafe. You'll continue to feel fear, and you'll continue to have the symptoms. That's the downside. And it also explains why no matter what you've tried, the fear never fully goes away because the source of it, which is the daily acts you keep doing. You can't lose 30 pounds if every day you keep eating French fries. It's impossible. So that's the downside. But if we want to turn this around, if we want to get people free of fear quickly, why is it good news to find out that what's causing the fear is little acts of unhealth accumulating over time? Why, if we want to turn this around quickly, why is that model of understanding actually good news?
I'm sorry, the connection cut out here. Could you repeat the last part of the question there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what we saw is little acts of unhealth are accumulating within you to create fear. And if you don't stop those little acts of unhealth, they're just going to keep you afraid.
Sure.
That's the bad news. Mm-hmm. But if we want a simple understanding how to be free of fear, why is it good news to find out that what's causing the fear is just little acts of unhealth that are accumulating? Why is that actually good news?
Again, I guess something's not wanting us to hear that question. Why is it important not to have little acts of fear? And then it cut out again.
All right. So the question was, what our research showed was that little acts of unhealth accumulate daily to create unsafety and fear. That's the bad news. But the reason it's good news is because it makes the whole thing solvable. Because it is doable to go from little acts of unhealth to little acts of health.
Yes.
That's called a diet. If you have little acts of unhealth, it'll accumulate to weight gain. But if you want to lose weight, you don't have to change your mindset. You don't need to become awakened. You don't need to meditate. You just go from little acts of dietary unhealth to health, and they accumulate, and you burn the fat. So the reason this is all solvable is because in 6 weeks, you get all the tools and the easy to follow instructions of how to go from little acts of unhealth to little acts of health. Then the body heals on its own. Your nervous system will heal. When it heals, what you are left with is a feeling of permanent safety. How good would your life be, and I'm saying this to you, Josh, and your audience, if you woke up every morning where your baseline is that you just felt safe from the inside out? How much better would your life be?
Feeling content and safe is like kind of it has to be there for me, so it is it's pretty much a requirement for the most part to have that as a predominant factor. Yes, and I totally agree. Drop by drop, a water bucket's filled, and just as we've gradually made these habits in our lives, they can be undone with different habits, and step by step, one little step, they accumulate drop by drop. It's filled up. So this is I know this from experience, right? In observation.
Yeah, and we have this observation in things in the body. The body, drop by drop, it becomes unhealthy. Drop by drop, it becomes healthy. That's the beauty of going to the body. That's why all this mind stuff, while well-intentioned, is not a great strategy because the mind is not drop by drop. Mind is symptom management. But if you go to the body, the body heals itself.
Absolutely.
And we figured out that fear was coming from the body, specifically the nervous system. It's unhealthy from neglect. You take care of it, comes back to health, and just stays healthy. There's nothing to maintain. And the benefit you get is that you feel safe. When you feel safe, the fear goes away, and you are free of this stuff. And when you are free of this stuff, whatever it is, you have access to that best, happiest, most authentic version of yourself. You ask me, like, what do people want? They just want to be themselves. That's the video game. But what keeps us from our true selves? Fear. So when you feel safe, the fear lifts, and you get to be the best version of yourself, which you already know is in there. It's who you were when you were a kid. 5-year-old you didn't say, I'm really thinking of going to the park, but I have a real scarcity mindset around playing tag. I really have a lot of self-doubt, and I'm really worried what people will think of how I am on the monkey bars. And I'm thinking of finger painting today, but I just feel like I'm broken using yellow. No! 5-year-old you was open-hearted, authentic, tons of it. 5-year-olds don't procrastinate. Have you seen a 5-year-old's finger painting? They are not perfectionists. That is paint vomit, they don't care because the fear hasn't kicked in yet. So people will say, Daniel, I don't even know what it's like to not have fear. It was that version of you before the fear kicked in. That version of you is still in there. That energetic, loving, open-hearted, expressive version of you is in there. It's just the nervous system now feels unsafe, and you don't have consistent access to that. I now don't have fear anymore. So I'm just like a kid all the time. I'm open-hearted, I'm expressive, I'm authentic. I don't care whether it's perfect or not. So as great as all this sounds, logically what we do is for everybody. Everybody's struggling with some symptom of the funky five, or just has fear and knows fear that keeps them from being happier. Your audience doesn't need me to tell them that. But all they're doing is either managing the fear, overcoming the fear, staying in the comfort zone to avoid the fear. Anybody would love to be free of fear in 6 weeks, where you only pay at the end when you get results, which means there's no risk, and it probably means we're getting results, because how else do we have that guarantee? Logically, this is a good idea. However, the person that works with us has two things. They have courage and they're motivated. Because even though people don't like the fear and the symptoms of fear, they also sort of like it because it's familiar, and letting go of it would be scary. And the belief of I don't deserve to be happy is in a lot of people. And also, what if I'm too broken to be fixed? There's a lot of unconscious beliefs that when you tell people, hey, we can get you out of here, they go into sabotage and they won't do it. So a lot of your audience listening to this will go, oh, that's an interesting theory. Nervous, and they won't take action because they're not ready for it. But to your audience members out there that have the courage to let this go, but also are motivated, and they go, you know what? I am tired of living like this. I am tired of managing my perfectionism, managing my people pleasing, managing the procrastination, managing the low confidence, I'm tired of managing. I want to be free of it. If you want to be free of anxiety, meaning you wake up each morning calm, looking forward to the day. If you want that, that sounds good to you, we can get you that in 6 weeks. We do it every day. If you procrastinate and you have tips and tools to manage it, but what if you could wake up each morning and just for hours a day, do what you want to be doing, bringing value and purpose to the world, and you look at the mirror at the end of each day and be like, wow, I got a lot of stuff done, stuff I wanted to do, and you want to be able to do that consistently, we can get you that in 6 weeks. If you're a people pleaser, you're like, I know I do this, I'm a recovering people pleaser, which is code for it's still there, and you want to be able to put yourself first, make yourself a priority to be a healthier, happier you, and then help others, and you want that quickly in 6 weeks, we can get you that. Especially low confidence, the self-doubt, caring what people think of you, needing people to like you, and you know that's keeping you from being the best you. It's affecting your productivity. It's affecting your ability to connect. It's affecting your relationships. It's just affecting your ability to enjoy life. And you would love to just be confident and present in every moment. If that sounds good to you, we can get you that in 6 weeks. But you have to be motivated and take action. And the action that you take is not to follow me on social media. Please, for the love of God, do not follow me on social media. I am telling you, we have a 6-week system that gets rid of the fear with no risk to try. Do that. That's a really good idea. Go to danielpackard.com, and there's 2 options, both of which is a free quick call with me. So the one is you can get a free next steps call, and you tell me what you're struggling with and what you want more of in your life. And I will give you some quick, actionable steps that you can take that'll move you in the direction of less fear and more of what you want. Or if you're sitting there going, wait a minute, I want to do the 6-week program. I just want this gone. Then go to danielpackard.com. There's basic info. It's 6 weeks. You need the exercises about 20 minutes per day. We tell you how much it costs, which, trust me, is way less than you'd think, considering you get to be free of this stuff. How our no change, no charge guarantee works, testimonials of people who are free of their fear. And if you've seen enough and you're interested in the program, you book a free quick call with me. Ask questions to make sure it's a good fit, but also I'm making sure it's a good fit for you, because we don't let people do our program if it's not going to work, because we know the pain of trying something and failing. Now, it works 90% of the time, but still, I want to make sure you have a good experience, because we don't want you to walk away from this feeling worse. So if you either want the next steps call or to find out more about the program and book a free quick call with me to see if it's a good fit, both of those at danielpackard.com.
Well, cool, Daniel. I appreciate you coming on here today and sharing your system and really addressing this, I would almost say, epidemic of fear, during the lockdowns. No matter what camp we fell on with that whole thing, I think the most detrimental thing of that was the fear that was involved. So I can't overemphasize enough, folks that are listening, watching this, do whatever you can to dive into this and, and address it, right? And Daniel's system, it seems like a very straightforward, very practical, results-driven thing, and it's right there in the upfront thing that it's going to work for you, or you don't have to pay for it. So that's great. So I encourage people to check this out, and yeah, may all beings everywhere come to realize optimal fearlessness.